some like little stubbies sticking out. When the concrete dries, it'll grab onto it and it'll hold on a lot better than just...
Farmtruck has been the heart and soul of Street Outlaws since day one. With his beat-up Chevy C-ten and infectious personality, he became the underdog everyone rooted for. But off the track, a single devastating moment changed everything, and it wasn't something racing could fix. Recent events have shaken the racing community to its core, leaving fans wondering if Farmtruck will ever be the same. What tragedy struck this beloved racer? How did a man who brought so much joy end up fighting battles most people can't even imagine? Join us as we uncover the heartbreaking tragedy of Farmtruck from Street Outlaws, the rise of an unlikely legend. Farmtruck, whose real name is Sean Whitley, never fit the typical street racer mold. While other racers showed up in sleek, purpose-built machines with sponsors plastered across their hoods, Farmtruck rolled up in what appeared to be a rusty, worn-out 1970 Chevy C-ten pickup truck that looked like it belonged in a junkyard, rather than on a racetrack. But that's exactly what made him special. He represented the everyday guy, the weekend warrior who built his dreams in a garage with limited resources and unlimited heart. When Street Outlaws premiered on Discovery Channel in 2013, Farmtruck and his longtime friend and partner, AZN, quickly became fan favorites. Their segments provided comic relief from the intense drama and ego clashes between other racers. While guys like Big Chief, Daddy Dave, and Murder Nova were locked in serious battles for list positions, Farmtruck and AZN were pulling pranks, building ridiculous contraptions, and proving that racing could be fun. But don't let the goofy exterior fool you. Beneath that rust-covered body sat a twin-turbocharged small-block Chevy engine, capable of running 9-second quarter miles. Farmtruck specialized in sleeper builds, vehicles that looked slow but packed serious power. His whole racing philosophy centered on the element of surprise. Unsuspecting competitors would laugh at his truck, agree to race for money, and then watch in shock as the old Farmtruck left them in the dust. The partnership between Farmtruck and AZN became legendary in the world of street racing. The duo didn't just race, they created some of the most memorable moments in Street Outlaws history. From their Gonna-Rail sketches to building outrageous vehicles like a turbocharged riding lawnmower and a fish tank car. Their chemistry was undeniable, their friendship genuine, and their impact on the show's success immeasurable. As Street Outlaws expanded into multiple spin-offs, including No Prep Kings, Farmtruck's popularity continued to grow. The No Prep Kings series featured racers competing at different tracks across America, with just raw racing on whatever surface was available. This format suited Farmtruck perfectly. His truck's heavy weight and simple setup gave him advantages on unprepared surfaces, where lighter, more powerful cars struggled for traction. Farmtruck became more than just a racer on a reality show. He became a symbol of creativity and the idea that racers don't need the fanciest equipment to compete. Fans connected with him because he represented what street racing was supposed to be about: passionate people building cars in their garages and racing for pride rather than corporate sponsorships. But while Farmtruck's career was reaching new heights and his fame continued to grow, dark clouds were gathering on the horizon. What personal battles was he fighting behind the cameras that fans knew nothing about? The health crisis that changed everything. The truth is that life away from the cameras has tested Farmtruck in ways few people ever see. Behind the scenes, things weren't always easy, and in recent years, they've become downright heavy. One of the most talked about issues was a serious hand injury that happened not during racing, but while working on equipment off the track. Recovery messed with his confidence and peace of mind. For someone whose entire world revolves around cars and control, losing trust in your own hands can be terrifying. Fans also noticed changes in his appearance over the years, sparking endless online speculation. Eventually, it became known that Farmtruck had dealt with Bell's palsy, a condition that affects facial muscles and can come on suddenly. While not life-threatening, it's emotionally draining, especially for a person who's constantly in the public eye. People who had no idea kept asking questions and dragging him into a dark emotional space. But, unfortunately, his health nightmare didn't end there. In early 2021, Farmtruck suddenly disappeared from Street Outlaws and social media, leaving fans confused and concerned. The racing community buzzed with speculation. Had he quit the show? Was there drama with other cast members? Has something happened to the famous truck? The silence was deafening, and as weeks turned into months without any updates, worry turned to genuine fear among his fan base. The truth, when it finally emerged, was far more serious than anyone imagined. Farmtruck had suffered a significant health crisis that required immediate medical intervention and an extended recovery period. While specific details about his condition were kept private out of respect for his medical privacy, sources close to the racer indicated it was serious enough to require hospitalization and force him to step away from racing entirely. For someone whose entire identity revolved around working on cars and racing, being forced to stop completely was devastating. Farmtruck had spent decades in garages, breathing exhaust fumes, working long hours in uncomfortable positions, and pushing his body to its limits. The physical toll of being a mechanic and racer, the constant bending, lifting heavy parts, exposure to chemicals, and stress had accumulated over the years. The racing community rallied around Farmtruck during this difficult time. Fellow Street Outlaws cast members posted messages of support, though they respected his privacy by not sharing specific details. AZN, his closest friend and racing partner, was understandably affected by Farmtruck's health crisis. The two had been inseparable for years, and seeing his best friend fighting a serious health battle took an emotional toll. Fans flooded social media with prayers, well wishes, and messages of encouragement. The outpouring of love demonstrated just how much Farmtruck meant to people. He wasn't just entertainment. He had inspired aspiring racers and brought joy to millions of viewers who tuned in every week to watch him outsmart and outrace his competition. During his recovery period, Farmtruck had to completely reevaluate his life, his priorities, and his relationship with racing. Doctor's orders meant no stressful activities that could compromise his recovery. For a man who had defined himself through automotive pursuits for his entire adult life, this forced inactivity was its own form of torture. The financial implications of his health crisis added another layer of stress. While Street Outlaws provided income, medical bills in America can be catastrophic, even with insurance. Extended time away from work, ongoing treatments, and the uncertainty about whether he could return to racing at all created enormous pressure during an already difficult period. Farmtruck's health battle was devastating enough, but just as he was beginning his recovery, another tragedy struck that would shake him to his very core. What loss left this tough racer broken in ways racing crashes never could? The loss that broke his heart. While Farmtruck was still recovering from his health crisis, tragedy struck again in a way that cut far deeper than any physical ailment. The racing community lost Ryan Fellows, one of its own, and the loss hit Farmtruck particularly hard. Though specific details about this personal loss have been kept private by Farmtruck and those close to him, sources within the Street Outlaws community have indicated that he experienced a devastating loss of someone very close to him during this already difficult period. The street racing world, despite its tough exterior and competitive nature, is actually a tight-knit community. Racers support each other through difficulties, show up for each other's families during hard times, and genuinely care about their fellow competitors beyond just what happens on the track. When word spread about Farmtruck's loss, the community once again rallied around him with support, condolences, and offers of help. AZN stood by his friend during this impossibly difficult time. Their friendship, built over decades of working on cars, racing together, and creating memories, proved its strength when it mattered most. While cameras weren't rolling and fans weren't watching, AZN was there for Farmtruck in whatever ways he needed, demonstrating that their bond went far deeper than just being co-stars on a television show. Grief affects everyone differently, but for someone like Farmtruck, who had always used humor, work, and racing as coping mechanisms, being unable to escape into his usual outlets made processing the loss even more challenging. He couldn't throw himself into building a new car or preparing for the next race to distract from the pain. He had to sit with his grief while also managing his health recovery, creating an emotional crucible that would test anyone's resilience. During this period, Farmtruck largely withdrew from public view. His social media accounts went quiet, his appearances on Street Outlaws ceased, and even his most loyal fans had to respect his need for privacy during an intensely personal time. The man who had brought so much laughter and joy to others was now fighting battles in darkness, away from cameras and public scrutiny. The intersection of health crisis and personal loss created questions about Farmtruck's future in racing. Could he recover physically? Would he want to return emotionally? Did he still have the fire and passion for racing after everything he'd been through? These questions haunted fans who had watched him for years and desperately hoped to see him back behind the wheel of that iconic truck. As Farmtruck wrestled with grief and recovery, another challenge emerged that threatened to end his racing career permanently. Would the physical and emotional toll prove too much for even this resilient racer to overcome? The struggle to return. After months away from racing and the public eye, Farmtruck faced his biggest challenge yet, deciding whether to return to the world that had defined him for so long. The road back wasn't just physical, it was mental, emotional, and spiritual. Everything he'd been through had changed him. And the question wasn't just whether he could race again, but whether he should. The physical challenges of returning to racing after a serious health crisis cannot be overstated. Racing, despite appearances, is physically demanding. The G-forces during acceleration and braking, the concentration required, the heat inside a race car, and the adrenaline stress all take a toll on the body. For someone recovering from health issues, jumping back into this environment posed real risks. Beyond the physical aspects, there was the work required to maintain and prepare race cars. Farmtruck had always been hands-on with his builds, spending countless hours in the garage, fabricating parts, tuning engines, and making adjustments. This mechanical work involves heavy lifting, working in awkward positions, and exposure to various chemicals and fumes, all of which could be problematic for someone with recent health concerns. When Farmtruck finally began making tentative steps toward returning, he had to proceed carefully, following medical advice and listening to his body in ways he'd never prioritized before. This cautious approach frustrated him at times. He was used to pushing through pain, working long hours, and ignoring his body's warning signals in pursuit of racing goals. Now he had to adopt a completely different mindset. The emotional and mental challenges were equally significant. After experiencing loss and confronting his own mortality through health issues, Farmtruck had to rediscover his passion for racing. Why risk his health and well-being for a hobby, even one he loved? What was he racing for now? These existential questions required honest answers before he could fully commit to a comeback. Support from the Street Outlaws family proved crucial during this transitional period. Cast members reached out to encourage Farmtruck, share their own struggles, and remind him that the racing community wanted him back, but would support whatever decision he made. This unconditional support gave him space to make decisions based on what was right for him rather than feeling pressured to return before he was ready. AZN's role during Farmtruck's potential return cannot be overstated. The duo's partnership had always been central to their success and their appeal on the show. AZN had to navigate his career and racing activities while his partner was sidelined, but he made it clear he was ready to resume their partnership whenever Farmtruck was able. That loyalty and patience meant everything during an uncertain time. Financial pressures added complexity to the decision to return. Medical bills, time away from income-generating activities, and ongoing expenses put pressure on the individual to return to work. Street Outlaws provided income, but only if he was actively participating. This financial reality meant Farmtruck couldn't take unlimited time to recover. Practical considerations had to factor into his timeline. The racing landscape had also changed during his absence. New competitors had emerged, car technology had advanced, and the competition level in No Prep Kings had intensified. Returning meant not just recovering his old form, but potentially having to work even harder to remain competitive. For someone still dealing with health limitations, this reality added another layer of difficulty to the comeback equation. Farmtruck also had to consider his legacy and how he wanted to be remembered. Did he want his final chapter to be defined by tragedy and withdrawal? Or did he want to write a comeback story? Did he have one more run in him? Or would attempting a return only damage the legendary status he'd built over years of racing? These questions about legacy and how his story would end weighed heavily on his mind. Farmtruck's internal struggle between returning to racing and protecting his health created an impossible choice, but his decision would ultimately reveal something profound about who he really is, what he chose, and what it means for his future. The comeback and redemption. After what felt like an eternity to fans who had followed his journey, Farmtruck made the decision that only he could make. He would return to racing. But this wasn't the same Farmtruck who had disappeared months earlier. This was a man who had stared down serious health issues, processed devastating loss, and emerged with a different perspective on life and racing. His return to Street Outlaws and No Prep Kings was handled carefully and gradually. Rather than immediately jumping into high-stakes races, Farmtruck eased back into the scene, starting with appearances, reconnecting with the racing community, and slowly rebuilding his confidence behind the wheel. This measured approach showed maturity and wisdom earned through difficult experience. The emotional moment when Farmtruck reunited with AZN on camera brought tears to the eyes of longtime fans. Their embrace wasn't staged or manufactured for television. It was a genuine reunion between best friends who had weathered a storm together. The chemistry that had made them fan favorites remained intact, but it now carried additional depth, forged through shared hardship. Farmtruck's first races back were understandably emotional. Strapping into that familiar truck, hearing the engine roar to life, and feeling the acceleration had a different meaning now. It wasn't just about winning or entertaining, it was about reclaiming a part of himself that health crisis and loss had temporarily stolen. Each pass down the track was a victory, regardless of whether he won the race. The racing community's reception of Farmtruck's return was overwhelmingly positive. Fellow racers welcomed him back with genuine warmth, competitors showed respect for what he'd overcome, and fans celebrated seeing their favorite underdog back in action. This outpouring of support validated his decision to return, both for himself and for the community that had missed him. However, Farmtruck's return came with necessary adjustments. He could no longer push himself with the same reckless abandon he once had. He needed to pace himself, take breaks when his body demanded them, and prioritize his health even when competitive instincts urged him to ignore warning signs. This balance between competing and protecting his well-being became a constant negotiation. The content of Farmtruck and AZN's segments on the show also evolved. While they still brought humor and creativity, there was now an undercurrent of appreciation for simply being able to do what they loved. The pranks and projects continued, but viewers who paid attention could see a subtle shift, a recognition that these moments were precious and not to be taken for granted. Farmtruck also became more open about his struggles, using his platform to encourage others facing health challenges or personal loss. While he didn't exploit his pain for sympathy, he acknowledged that he'd been through difficult times and came out the other side. This vulnerability resonated with fans who were dealing with their own battles and found inspiration in his resilience. His racing results post-comeback may not have matched his earlier success. The time away and physical limitations took their toll on performance. But Farmtruck redefined what success meant for him. It was no longer about being the fastest or winning every race. Success was being healthy enough to race at all, having his best friend by his side, and continuing to do what he loved despite everything that tried to stop him. The relationship between Farmtruck and the famous truck also evolved. That Chevy C-ten had been through multiple rebuilds, upgrades, and modifications over the years. Now it represents even more. Every time Farmtruck fired up that engine, he was making a statement about perseverance in the face of adversity. Do you think Farmtruck's legacy in street racing is defined more by his wins or his resilience through tragedy? Will he continue racing for years to come, or has his body been through too much? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.